Welcome to the Rocket Roof Show, where we equip fellow roofers to do more commercial business every first and third Thursday of the month. It's time to launch your business to the next level.
This is Project Command. Stand by at power transfer.
3, 2, 1. Blast off!
Hi, welcome back to another episode of the Rocket Roof Show with your guest Andy Neer here. Today I have with me Ephraim Glick. You're out of Kentucky, correct?
Pennsylvania, Kentucky. I've been in Nashville for 10 years now.
Okay, awesome. And I forget the name of your company. What is that?
It's called Midsouth Commercial Roofing.
Okay. I love that name. I've seen your trucks. It looks really good. So just wanted to bring Ephraim on today because I love his story. I'd like to. I've been reading some of his podcasts. You recently started a podcast and some blogging, and really, you're really big on leadership and how leadership affects people. I know you're a John Maxwell fan and stuff like that. So that's really cool. So if you could just take a minute and share what brought you to this point, or what you're doing before commercial roofing, because this podcast is really about commercial roofing, but you were doing something completely different from commercial roofing before. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
It's kind of more like what I didn't do. This is, I think, the 8th company. So,
oh wow!
When I say that, I don't mean like that they all worked. So
right.
I never want people to think like that I haven't had my share of failures. I started off originally when I was 18. I left home with the clothes on my back, and so I had to do something. And I knew how to do landscaping, so I started off I started a landscape company. Did that. I went from there to I was sold that business and went into construction, and went from there into farrier service of all. My family is big on horses. I did that for 6 years, I think. And so anyway, it's just on and on, things like that. And I ended up, I guess the longest company I've had was 12 years. We designed playground sets for kids, churches, parks, what have you. And I kind of got backed into that. It wasn't like that's what I had ever thought I'd do. And I sold that in 2016. And then from there, I kind of got thrown into this roofing thing, never intentionally.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's important to say that the deal I did after I sold my business in 2016, that I had for 12 years, I just got burned out from it because my love is people. And it was at the point where I was sitting in the back office, wasn't even answering phone calls anymore. So I was like, this isn't, I was getting burned out of that. And so I sold that, did a deal with a guy that cost me everything. And then from there, I guess that's kind of how the whole roofing thing, because of I barely even knew him at the time, but we had mutual friends, and he was in the commercial roofing industry. And so he was kind of the guy that was like, you can do this. And I went and helped him for a couple months and still didn't intend to do it. Went to Montana from there. I had no idea what I wanted to do. We're talking about 2017, 2018, latter part of 2017, through definitely the first half of 2018. I had no clue what I was going to do. I was in a funk I was probably the worst part of my life, worst time of my life, period. I mean, it was just kind of this funk where I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And
so let me ask you a question right there. Were you looking for the next opportunity, or were you dwelling on what did I do wrong the last few years?
I'm an optimist, so I'm always looking at what's in front of me, or as far as I think opportunity is there wherever you are. It wasn't that I was necessary. I had kind of accepted that, you know what, for this time, for whatever this season is, I'm going to survive.
Yep.
And by that meant I'm going to get as healthy as I can mentally, physically, whatever. That's when I ran a marathon and did all kinds of different stuff I was just taking care of myself so that when something does come along that I wanted to do, that I was ready to dive into it. So when the roofing thing came along, it was, I went and tried it with him for a couple months, and I was like, I don't really want to do this. And he kept telling me, you can do this. And then finally, I think when it really hit me was he was on vacation and I was finishing a job by myself. Everyone had gone on vacation or whatever. And for whatever reason, I was the only person that had been helping him that was on this job. And I finished this job. I actually got one of my friends to go help me finish it. And having worked for myself pretty much my entire life, when I left that job site that day, I'm like, this is ridiculous. Why am I not doing this myself? Because I kind of knew what he was going to profit off of it, and I knew what I was making, which was okay. He was paying me good money. And so, but I had no money at the time. Still coming off this loss, I had no money, literally. And so I told him, I said, I'd be interested in this deal. And this is where great mentorship comes in. You're talking about leaders, someone who sees potential in you when you don't, because I didn't think I was ready to jump in another business. I mean, I was probably leaning more towards, I'm just going to go work for someone for a couple of years because that's secure and safe, even though that's never really how I lived my life. But I said, I don't have any money. And he said, I'll make sure you get your certification. I'm going to take care of this. And I still didn't want him to do that. And then the next day he called me and said, hey, I took care of it. He actually ended up driving me to training, which I, still knew very little about commercial roofing. He ended up, he just pretty much took me there. And I remember on the way home that day, we were talking about, we had an 8-hour drive and we were talking about how we can do this, how we can make this work. And he's like, look, I'll help you with equipment. You know how to sell. I went and started knocking on doors. Literally, not houses, but just, walking in businesses and introducing myself. And I spent $700 in material to try to hand something out. Landed a couple of jobs, and the rest is history.
We'd like to take just a quick break to thank our sponsor, Top Roof Marketing, a full-service marketing group that specializes in the commercial roofing industry. If you're looking to boost the commercial side of your business, they have lots of ideas to connect you with building owners who are looking for help. Visit toproofmarketing.com.
If I remember the story right, that guy that helped you, his name's Andrew.
Andrew Gingrich.
Right? Yep.
Yeah,
and I know Andrew. He's a mover and a shaker. And some people, they have the ability to inspire you. I wanted to say believe in you, but I think it really goes beyond belief. Like, you probably were just like, I've met these guys. Sam Hostetler is another one of those guys that I've talked to. And for some reason I can say something to a guy and then it doesn't really get too far. And then Sam says something to him and then they're just like inspired. And I think some people, Andrew's one of those guys that you just want to you get all fired up after talking to him.
Yeah. Well, his energy is contagious. And I think that goes to say for those guys, a lot of those guys that can, I've seen a lot of people, try to get whether you want to go with a team or just a group of people that's an advocate for you. And the people that succeed in that are the people that are their energy is just contagious. They're just go, go, go. And they're not stopping and thinking about the details. Mm-hmm. They just go, they dive into it. And I've been blessed with a little bit of that, which has definitely saved, starting a commercial roofing company where I don't care what anyone says is not cheap, period, end of story. Your equipment is not cheap. Your insurance is not cheap. There's nothing cheap about it. So had I sat down and thought for a second and started listing out all of the details, what it would take to get it done, I would have never done it. But I'm blessed with a little bit of that. Like, I'm just going to figure it out and I go for it. And so, but those are the kind of people that draw the attention, or that like Andrew, because people watch him and they're like, well, man, he's not sitting around second guessing himself. Yep. He's just going for it. And that's attractive. And that's what gets people, motivated to work with you.
But if I remember right, you literally, when you made that decision to go out to Kansas, you had $200 in your pocket, right? Like that's all you had to your name was like $200.
So that was yeah. Well, it was $150. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I was overestimating you, but Yeah, you didn't have
I tell you,
$40,000 to sitting there ready to build a roofing company.
absolutely not. I had zero. I mean, you know, and again, I was still in debt from the last deal that I had done with a partner,
Mm-hmm.
and bad credit. I mean, well, I don't know my credit. I don't know what you would consider bad credit, but my credit had taken a hit, meaning I couldn't walk into a bank and say. I remember when I started my first company, I walked into the bank and I had literally a scratch paper and 5 different steps I wanted to do, and I handed it to the banker, and he said, "Come back tomorrow for your check." There's no way I could have done that. Again, we're talking 2006 or 7 when banks actually loan money, but there's no way I could go to a banker to get money or something like that. So so there was. Yeah, it was just hard work, you know, which is something that no one's ever going to outwork me. So I knew that with a good mentor, someone that's willing to tell me, hey, do this, I can put in the work. And so, yeah.
So I've got a question about setting goals, because I know right from the onset, you had set yourself some goals. I know it might come to second nature to you, but I know a lot of guys, they try something and, well, we'll just see how it goes, you know, or, you know, I'll knock on a, you know, few doors, or I'll walk into a few places. I'll send a few mailers out, but that's different than like literally setting goals. And I know you set some goals, and they were lofty goals, and you kind of, I don't know if you blew them out of the water, but you achieved those goals in the first year. Am I right?
First year, sure did. Yeah. So goals is I hate goals, first off, and by that I mean everyone has their own idea of what goals are. For me, I'm not that guy that's going to post a Post-it note on my refrigerator or on my mirror saying, here's my goal for the day. I'm just not. I don't have the time to think like that. I'm just go. And I did my goal setting a little different. Well, I guess I did set one goal, meaning I was like, I need to do cold calls. So and I wanted to do something that's realistic. So I just decided to do 5 a day until I get some jobs. And that's simple. You can walk into 5 buildings a day. Mm-hmm. That's very easy. You can drive in an industrial park and do 5 buildings in a matter of 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. And again, I think part of that comes down as well as how you're presenting your cold call too, but that's a whole different topic. Mm-hmm. So I guess as far as goals go, what I know changed my life from just kind of mediocre setting goals in different companies I've had, this and that, and having success to a level maybe, but never really getting where I wanted to go, where I'd say like this company has definitely got me closer than any other company has ever had. And the difference lies in one thing, and I attribute all of my success besides, I think, you know, God gave me a favor, things like that, and my mentorship and the obvious things too. But mentally, for me, what changed the course of how I was doing business, I decided, you know, people always say visualize, but it doesn't help to just visualize something. You can't just sit in your chair or lay in your bed and think and visualize. You can dream, if you will. That's called dreaming. But in order to really make that change, you have to feel it as if it's already happened. And I think anyone that reads any books or on psychology and things like that can understand it. So I said, well, how can I feel it? How can I do more than just visualize it? So I took 2, I have them right here every single day. I just finished them this morning. 2 of these just notepads. I buy them at the dollar store for like $1 a piece. Mm-hmm. And I take one and I date it to date. And I write in there, you know, kind of what I'm grateful for, like simple things like this morning, like I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for blah, blah, blah. And then talk a little bit about the jobs, what I want to accomplish today. What is something that I can do today that's going to make a difference, whether it's in my future or just today or in someone's life. And then I take another one, a whole separate book, and I put that date in, but I don't put a year in. And this is probably crazy to a lot of people, but it just works for me. I write in there, like I visualize the person. Who do I want to be at 45 years old, at 50 years old, et cetera, et cetera. What am I doing that day? What is my thought process that day? What kind of deals am I making that day? What am I investing in? Where am I living? What is around me, to the point of the people that are around me, to the people that I might be interviewing on my podcast, to all kinds of things. And I write that as if it's already happened. And so I started doing that, and I had no idea to tie that into roofing. I had no idea what I was doing. And I got this, but I was writing about these in my vision book, if you will, or my dream book that I was writing these deals. I was selling these jobs already, but I wasn't selling them in person. But what happens is you do that, if you're repetitive enough in doing that, and there's, I read this book that said, if you, I forget who it was, and I should probably reference back to it, but basically if you have a pen and you physically write something, your thumb is connected to a part of your memory lobe in your brain. So the more you do with your thumb, as far as writing something out, handwriting it, not typing it on the computer or not just doing it some other way, you actually start believing it more. It becomes more of your memory. It becomes more of you. So that's what I physically write these things. So again, to tie that back into roofing, is I got this call from this big company, and I had sold maybe 4 or 5 jobs at that point, small jobs. We're talking about 2,000-3,000 square foot jobs. And I had a little bit of money. Again, we're now, still had barely any equipment. Andrew was providing me with a lot of equipment. I was providing the help, but he would make sure I have equipment. And there's something I want to note to that. When someone's providing you equipment, you work with their schedule. Because I've tried to help people too, and they want my equipment when they want my equipment. And I think that you have to honor the guy that's going out for you. So I always worked with his schedule. Whenever he was done, or if I had to work on a weekend, I did, in order to do my stuff. And so anyway, this big company called, and he said, "Hey, I've got this 63,000 square foot building. We'd like to talk about a couple systems for this roof." And I'm like, okay. And I'm not bashful, so I'll chat up someone any day. And so, we talked for a bit, and I said, I had about $2,000 in my bank account at the time. And I was like, man, and this job was 8 hours away. So I said, and he had buildings in multiple states, and that's how come this one just ended up being further away. And so he said, so I said, well, okay, I'll come take a look at it. I said, this is about what price you're going to be at. Does that sound like something you want to do? And he said, yeah. If we're somewhere around that price range, we're definitely interested. So I said, okay, I'll come meet you, walk the building this night. I called Andrew and I said, hey, can you go with me? And just so happened he wasn't available. He was out of town or something. So I said, okay, I'm going to go wing this myself. And I did. I walked in there, and when I left, I talked to the CEO and the CFO for about 15, 20 minutes. Walked the roof, told them what I thought. And all this time that I'm on this roof, I'm thinking, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. I had no idea. I'm not even kidding. I barely knew what I was doing.
If you were like me on my first big roof, I was like, I'm not even worthy. Like, I'm not worthy to be on this roof.
Yeah. Well, because I didn't even really exactly understand the system at this point yet to a T. I had never, done something to that extent. Within an hour of me leaving that, I had barely left an hour. I was on the road back, and he called and he said, where do we wire the money to? And it kind of blew me away. And what I realized was, when I just walked out of the building from meeting with these guys, I was like, everything just went flawlessly, but I was calm, cool, and collected during the whole process. And I was like, why was that? Because I sure didn't feel like that inside, but I realized I had sold that building 25, 30 times already in my writing, in my dream book. So because I had done it so many times in my book, my subconscious took over and handled it. And that's what goals are for me, is more so than just writing something down. And I think someone said, Brad Harmsworth said this, a guy I interviewed on my show here a couple weeks ago. He said something that I had never heard before. And he said, if you set goals, you have to stop thinking about 6 months. Start thinking about 200 years from now. What is what you're doing? How is that going to impact 200 years from now, your kids and things like that? And that was a whole new thought from me, and I'm still processing that, but I think it's pretty crazy and probably very helpful. So more so than just planning day-to-day goals or even yearly goals. And I kind of have my yearly goals, but I already know I'm going to do that, or at least I'm going to die trying. But then I don't beat myself up if I don't hit them, because everything's still okay. It doesn't matter what happens today. In my dream book, I'm okay. And it's 15, 20 years from now. So I know I'm going to be okay. And I 100% believe what I'm writing. So the things don't phase you quite as much. If you don't hit a goal, or if something doesn't go exactly the way you want, or you don't get that one big job, well, you're going to get some more. And so it's just really changed my life.
Yeah. Okay. One of the last questions I have on here for you is mindset. Can you kind of pick a mindset that you shifted in that year 2018 from when you were, leaving one business, you're kind of in your funk, and then going into commercial? Was there a particular mindset that maybe you thought, that's the wrong way to think, I've got to think differently, and you changed it?
Yeah. And I've always read books and stuff, but I think books can only do so much. Sometimes reading a bunch of books or listening to a bunch of motivational stuff just puts you in the information funk, where you have so much information, you don't really know what to do with it. So for me, I knew there was a block in my head that was stopping me. There was something in my head that was, Ed Milet puts it this way: you have a temperature that you run your life by. Let's say your thermostat at home, maybe it goes to 75 during the day and 70 at night, but it's what's comfortable. Well, how do you change that? Like, let's say you go outside and it's freezing cold outside, and you come back in. Well, you're adjusting back to your temperature. So his way of putting it was, let's say your thermostat for your bank account is 20 grand or something. And then you go to 40, but you come back to 20. You keep coming back to 20. Well, there's something blocking you. And so I knew that block was in my head. And so I was like, how can I break this block? And I did it through fitness. Now, I'm sure there's many different ways to do it. I stopped listening to people. I stopped listening to information. And I was like, this is something I have to do myself. And I did it through running. So there was always a mental block of running. I never had ran more than 2.5, 3 miles. And then I'd be done. My head's telling me, I'm done. You're tired. You're done. And one night I had enough of it. And instead of sleeping, I went and ran, and I ran and I ran and I ran, and I cried while I was running, and I ended up running 8 miles. And that was a block. And that was the moment that I knew that I had broken that mental block. And so I just pushed myself in ways of, through fitness or anything else that I can do. I just push myself. Or in business, I honestly, I become the wolf in business. I mean, I will crush everyone else. And by that, I mean, if you're going to go play and go boating on a weekend, I'm going to go work. I do whatever it is I have to do to be at the top of my game. And so to answer your question, there was a shift in mindset, but I had the answers within me. And sometimes I think we all have those answers. It's just we have to find them. And you can read the books and you can do all those things. Those are still helpful, but you literally have everything in your own head that you need to break the blocks. And I think when you can figure it out yourself, it becomes more real versus just taking someone else's word for it. So That's how I did it. And that could be different for any person. It's not one size fits all, I'm sure.
Sure. So one last question I have is, you're a little bit like me. You had even though I'm 45, for many years I had a youthful appearance, I think until I was about 32, 35. And maybe it was just in my head that I thought, man, people, I'm not as mature looking as another guy. And I know guys that come into the commercial business that I talk to, they're concerned about, I'm going to walk in and talk to a business owner, maybe like you said, the CEO and the CFO. They're obviously seasoned businessmen, and I look like this kid. What can you say to guys that think that? Is that a factor, or is that just a myth we tell ourselves?
I think the first question I would ask someone is, what's your motive? Because if the way I've found it is, if you are there, I've only gotten that question one time, and I turned it around I told the guy, I said, look, that's to your advantage. I'm going to be here a whole lot longer than that guy that's 60 years old. He's like, wow, that makes sense.
That's a great response.
Yeah. And so, but I've only gotten that one time, and I think I probably would get it more, but I tend to go into every proposal or bid that I go do, I go in there with my intentions are to become their friend. I'm not thinking about taking their money, landing this job. I'm there to become their friend, to earn their trust, and to hear their pain points and see if I have a solution for them. Because there's not every time, I don't want the job every time. Sometimes they want something different and I just don't want to do that. And I tell them, look, you're better off getting these guys. If you go in there, I think where that most times will bite you in the butt is if you go into this business thinking, I'm going to get rich quick. One, I'm going to just make a bunch of money, and you don't really care about the long-term benefit that you're providing your client. You're going to get those. You're going to get those as well as many other objections. But people know if you're authentic and if you're real. And so when you truly have the best motive and the best intent going in there, and your number one focus is what's best for this client, that's going to come out subconsciously, and that's going to come out to their subconscious is going to pick up on that, and they're not going to give you those objections. Right. And I'm not saying never, but for the most part, I don't think they will. And second is be professional. I mean, if you're, I've heard so many guys say, well, I don't want to join Better Business Bureau because it doesn't help anything. Well, who cares? It's not about you. It's about the perception people have of Better Business Bureau. Better Business Bureau does nothing for me except take $500 or $1,000, $500 to $1,000 of my money every year. That's irrelevant. It's how people perceive. It's how your potential customers perceive what the Better Business Bureau is. So you join those things. You set up, you wear, I wear a collared shirt with a logo on. That's just my personal preference. I don't go in jobs wearing shorts. I play the part. And so when you are the part and your company online and everywhere else is backing up that part, your trucks are lettered and everything else, they're going to see you're legit. And so but if you roll in there and you're wearing shorts, and we're talking about commercial roofing here, where OSHA shorts doesn't pass OSHA. And I'm not saying don't wear shorts on the roof. I personally wear shorts on the roof a lot of times when I'm working, but it's just, if you go in there wearing shorts and a cutoff t-shirt and a truck that has no markings on it, and you look like a kid, of course you're going to get that. They're going to think you're a fly-by-night company, which is what a lot of people are out there. As far as, Birmingham, for instance, is a city we do a lot of work in. And I'm told almost every other time, man, you guys are actually legit. You should see these other guys that come in here. And so I think that's the difference. I think it's finding a way to present yourself before the objections ever, and you won't get those objections near as much. Okay, awesome. So I want to take a moment here just to give a shout out to our sponsor, one of the longtime sponsors of this show that helps me put this on and helps me kind of pay for all the things that go on behind the scenes for this, is the Top Roof Marketing Group that helps me with my website and SEO and stuff. So just want to do a shout out to Top Roof Marketing, and just to kind of give a little plug for them, that they only do commercial roofing, and so they know what they're doing and they know what they're talking about, and they've helped me a lot. So in closing, I wanted to kind of ask you about your, you do commercial roofing, but you also have started in the last few months a podcast. Is it just a podcast, or is there a blog link to it? I know you have something going on. You want to just speak to that real quick on what it's called and what it's about? Yeah. So I do commercial roofing. I love what I do career-wise. Enjoy it every single day. But there's a part of leadership that I think you have to give back in some way. And for me, it was, so many people look at guys that have maybe what they think they want or whatever, and they think, well, that person just has something special that I don't have. And I've felt that myself. Well, that person can do that because there's something different. They've had a better advantage, this or that, or a million other things. And I realized within the last year that that's not the case, because I've had so many people come to me and say, how did you do this? How did you do this? How did you do this? This is impossible. You shouldn't have been able to do this. And I'm thinking, but I did with $150. And there's nothing that's special about me. I'm not any more special than the next person. I don't have any more gifts, if you will, than the next person, maybe, whatever. I used to be really shy and bashful. I just learned new skills. And so I was like, how do we create a show that then brings people on that have accomplished, it's called The Ultimate Shift, that have accomplished some sort of shift, whether it was in business, entertainment, or just life. And they're on some sort of platform that people are looking up to, and you say, what's the thought process you've had? Who were you as a kid? What were your dreams? And then how did that transpire? And then are you doing what you love? And basically just getting into the brain of people who we think have accomplished more than we have, so that at the end of the day, the listeners can listen to that and say, you know what, I may not have what Andy has, but I've had some of those thoughts. I've had some of those same fears he's talking about. I've had some of those failures. So there's some compatibility there. And all of a sudden they feel like, okay, I can do this. If he can, and he had those things, and I can too. And so that's the goal of the show, is just to raise awareness, to bring people on that have accomplished some stuff, and share their stories, and hopefully inspire other people through that.
Awesome.
So yeah,
okay.
it's just something I do on the side. It's not something that makes me any money or anything, but yeah, it's just my way of giving back. And it's really, my passion really lies within that. If I could do anything in the world, it would be to interview people and exploit their stories, because I think stories is all everyone has.
Yep, for sure.
So yeah.
Okay, well, the name of your podcast is The Ultimate Shift. So if we're going to put a link down here too, and when this goes live. The Ultimate Shift with Ephraim Glick. And I know you're only a few months into that podcast, but I already see some great content on that. You want to share maybe, because I know you also help other young new contractors get started in commercial roofing. You mind sharing maybe some of your contact information if somebody wanted to get a hold of you?
Sure. Well, you can always reach out you can go to ephraimglick.com. You can go to theultimateshift.com. You can, social media, it's just Ephraim Glick, I think, on Instagram and Facebook. I'm really on Instagram more than anything, I think. My email is just ephraim@midsouthcommercialroofing.com. Any one of those ways, yeah, you can always, yeah. I guess probably the easiest way is if you go to ephraimglick.com, you just fill out that form or whatever, it comes directly to you. That's probably the easiest for people to remember.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, I thank you for being on the show today. I know you're a really busy guy. We tried to make this happen a couple of times a month or two back, and you're just so busy. And so I'm glad you took the time out of your schedule to do this. I just know there's a lot of guys that are like-minded that want to make the ultimate shift, and would love to hear what you have to say. So appreciate you for being on here today.
Sure. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You've been listening to the Rocket Roof Show podcast. Be sure to subscribe through your favorite podcasting platforms such as iTunes or Google Play to get the latest episodes as they are launched. For more, please follow us on social media or visit our website at rocketroofshow.com. We look forward to joining you here again soon at the next launch.